Members, the chair recognizes Senator Estes for motion.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Mr. President, I move to suspend Senate Rule 8.02 to take up and consider House Concurrent Resolution 3 at this time.
Thank you. Members, the issue before us is the suspension of the Senate Rules 8.02 to take up and consider HCR 3. Is there any objection from any member? Chair has no objection, and it's so adopted. The chair lays out HCR 3. The Secretary will read the caption. I'm sorry, to read in full.
HCR 3, whereas the Texas Legislative Medal of Honor was established to recognize gallant and intrepid service by a member of the state or federal military forces, and Audie Murphy, the most highly decorated American soldier of World War II, would be a fitting recipient of this prestigious award. And whereas born in Kingston, Hunt County on June 20th, 1925, Audie Leon Murphy was one of 12 children. He received several years of formal education before leaving school to help support his family. In addition to working a variety of jobs, he hunted small game for food and became a crack shot. And whereas Audie Murphy tried to enlist in the armed forces after the attack on Pearl Harbor, but was rejected because he was underage. Later, when he claimed to be a year older than he actually was, the Marines and paratroopers turned him down on the grounds that he was too short and too thin. Finally, in June 1942, still misrepresenting his date of birth, he managed to join the Army infantry. Determined to become a combat soldier, he successfully resisted the effort of his company commander to have him transferred to a cook and baker's school. And whereas in early 1943, Private Murphy shipped overseas to Morocco as a replacement in Company B, 1st Battalion, 15th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division. While stationed in North Africa, he participated in extensive training maneuvers. He saw his first combat in July 1943 when the 3rd Division invaded Sicily, and he subsequently took part in the landing at Salerno, the Volturno River Campaign, the landing at Anzio, and the March on Rome. During those months in Italy, Audie Murphy demonstrated both exceptional skill as a marksman and a sound grasp of small unit tactics. His proficiency as a soldier earned him repeated promotions and several decorations for valor. And whereas on the morning of August 15, 1944, Staff Sergeant Murphy landed with the 3rd Division in southern France. That same day, he earned the Distinguished Service Cross, this nation's second highest award for heroism, for his actions in single-handedly destroying a German machine gun crew and several other enemy positions, feats that made possible the capture of a fiercely contested hill. The following October 2nd and October 5th, he earned Silver Stars for further heroic action. And whereas that fall, Audie Murphy received a battlefield commission as a 2nd lieutenant. Soon afterward, he sustained a wound that removed him from action for the next 10 weeks. Though not completely healed, he returned to his unit early the next year, and on January 25, 1945, he became company commander. And whereas at that time, Lieutenant Murphy's men were engaged in the effort to clear German soldiers from the area in eastern France known as the Colmar Pocket, on January the 26th, in bitter cold and with several feet of snow covering the ground, Company B came under attack by 6 German tanks and 250 German infantrymen. Lieutenant Murphy ordered his troops, whose effective strength had been reduced by about 40%, to fall back. He remained forward and continued to direct Allied artillery fire by telephone. When the German tanks drew abreast of his position, he mounted a burning tank destroyer, and though exposed to fire on 3 sides, employed its machine gun against the enemy, causing the German infantry to waver and the tanks to fall back. He continued to hold his ground in the firefight for an hour, wiping out a German squad that had reached within 10 yards of his position. When his ammunition was exhausted, he made his way back to his company, refused medical treatment for a leg wound, and led his men in a successful counterattack, enabling his unit to save the woods that had been the Germans' objective. Lieutenant Murphy was credited with personally killing or wounding about 50 enemy combatants in that encounter, and his exceptional bravery earned him the Medal of Honor. And whereas the following month, Audie Murphy was withdrawn from the front lines, promoted to 1st lieutenant, and made a liaison officer. He returned to the States in mid-June 1945, having earned 28 medals, including several from France and Belgium. He was not yet 21. And whereas Lieutenant Murphy received his discharge from the Army in September 1945, he joined the Texas National Guard in 1950 after the attack of the Korean War and eventually attained the rank of major. Assigned to inactive status in 1957, he transferred to the United States Army Reserve in 1966 and continued as a member of the Reserve until his death in 1971. And whereas though his extraordinary record in the war brought him widespread fame, Audie Murphy remained profoundly humble, highlighting his comrades' courage rather than his own. In his autobiography and requesting a plain government headstone for his grave instead of one adorned with the gold gilt that typically signifies a Medal of Honor recipient. And whereas Audie Murphy repeatedly risked his life to save the lives of his fellow soldiers and to help advance their mission, and for his remarkable heroism, he is most assuredly deserving of this state's supreme military award. Now therefore be it resolved that the 83rd Legislature of the State of Texas, second call session, hereby direct the Governor of the State of Texas to award the Texas Legislative Medal of Honor posthumously to Audie Murphy in recognition of his valiant actions in World War II.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. The Chair recognizes Senator Estes. Senator Estes, was not Audie Murphy the most highly decorated military soldier in American history?
That's correct, Mr. President. Thank you. Thank you, members, for allowing us to read this resolution in full today. On behalf of Senator Vanderpeut, I rise to fulfill a promise our nation has made to our military men and women, an oath to be forever grateful for their service and never forget their sacrifice. I ask that you stand with me today to reaffirm our commitment to our most decorated World War II combat soldier, Major Audie L. Murphy, awarding him the Texas Legislative Medal of Honor. Although Major Murphy has received 28 decorations, awards, and citations, including the Congressional Medal of Honor, the Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, the Legion of Merit, 2 Bronze Stars, 3 Purple Hearts, and recognition from both Belgium and France, the Texas Legislature is yet to award him the Texas Legislative Medal of Honor. Today, with your help, I hope we can change that. On May 28, 1971, we lost this great American hero to a tragic plane crash. Fortunately, with the efforts of family and friends, like spokesman David Phillips, the Murphy family, and the Audie Murphy Memorial, and the thousands of supporters all over the world, Audie Murphy's legacy lives on. Now is the time for the Texas Legislature to do our part in remembering and honoring this brave man. Please vote in favor of directing the Governor to award Major Audie L. Murphy the Texas Legislative Medal of Honor. Mr. President, I am proud to move adoption of HCR 3.
Thank you, Senator Estes. Members, the question is the adoption of HCR 3. Is there objection from any member? A roll call vote. The Secretary will call the roll.
Birdwell, Campbell, Corona, Davis, Duell, Duncan, Ellis, L-Type, Estes, Frazier, Garcia, Hancock, Hager, Hinojosa, Huffman, Lucio, Nelson, Nichols, Patrick, Paxton, Rodriguez, Schwartner, Sulliger, Taylor, Uresti, Vanderpeut, Watson, West, Whitmire, Williams, and Zaffarini.
Members, there being 28 ayes and no nays, the motion, the resolution is adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members.
The members, the President signs in the presence of the Senate the following.